So here's a question for you. Is our digital world saving the planet, or is it quietly creating a whole new kind of environmental crisis? I mean, technology promises this cleaner, more efficient future, right? But every click, every stream, every swipe, it all has a hidden cost. That's the big paradox we're diving into today.
You really see it laid out here. On one hand, tech feels like it could be the solution to everything. But on the other, it's a huge source of pollution and waste. And the scientific community, they're kind of divided on this. So what's the real story? Well, let's start with the good news first.
Okay, so there's a really powerful argument that digitalization is actually one of our best tools for protecting the environment. You know, the techno-optimists, they point to some pretty compelling ways our digital lives can help shrink our physical footprint.
And here's how that works. First, you've got dematerialization, which is a fancy way of saying we're swapping physical things for digital ones. Think about switching from paper books to e-readers. Then there's replacing travel with email or video calls, which obviously cuts down on emissions. And, this is a big one, digital platforms have become these incredible launchpads for global environmental movements.
And we're not just talking about simple swaps here. This is about deploying some seriously cutting-edge tech. Right now, artificial intelligence is helping create smart ways to manage our natural resources, like figuring out the perfect amount of water for crops. Machine learning is being used to model and predict the effects of climate change. And believe it or not, even blockchain is getting in on the action, helping track supply chains to make sure they're sustainable.
All right, but that is only half the picture. For every bright promise, there's a pretty big shadow. So now we need to talk about the massive and often totally invisible environmental cost of our digital habits. The term experts are using is digital pollution. And get this, researchers are arguing it's a threat on the same level as the pollution we can actually see and smell. It basically comes from two places: making all our gadgets and the insane amount of energy needed to run our networks. And the numbers? Well, they're staggering. Take 2021, for example. In that 1 year alone, 15 times billion smartphones were sold worldwide. That's almost 2 phones for every single person on Earth, sold in just 12 months.
And the impact of just making them? 900 million tons of CO2. That's before a single one of them is even turned on. It's this enormous upfront environmental cost for a device that, let's be honest, we often replace every couple of years.
And here's a wild one. Even that advanced, clean tech has a dirty little secret. Training just one of those large AI systems, the kind that powers so many of the services we use, can produce carbon emissions 5 times greater than the entire lifetime emissions of an average car. And yeah, that includes manufacturing the car.
And this is where our daily habits really add up. Every time you stream a video, right? That data has to travel from some massive server farm through the network all the way to your device. And those server farms, they consume unbelievable amounts of electricity. In fact, there's an estimate that a day-long video stream could have a bigger carbon footprint than a round-trip flight from Paris to New York. It's crazy.
So, okay, we have these two completely opposite stories about technology. Is it the savior or the destroyer? But what if they're not opposite at all? What if they are two sides of the same, deeply connected problem? A problem some researchers have started calling digital environmental poverty.
Let's break that down for a second. First, you've got digital poverty. This is pretty straightforward. It's when people don't have the access, the skills, or the devices to really be a part of the online world. And it's a huge deal. It makes existing inequalities in things like education and healthcare even worse.
Then, on the other side, there's environmental poverty. This happens when a degraded or unhealthy environment, think polluted air, contaminated water, or land that's been stripped for resources, robs people of their basic needs and well-being. And this is where it all snaps together. Digital environmental poverty, or DEP, is the idea that these two things are totally linked. A lack of digital access can stop people from learning about or fighting against the environmental damage happening in their own backyards. And at the same time, the environmental damage caused by our global thirst for new tech often hits the world's poorest communities the hardest. They're connected in a vicious cycle where each problem makes the other one worse.
So, obviously, this is a huge, tangled issue. How can we possibly get our heads around it? Well, thankfully, there's a framework that can help us break the problem down into 3 different levels.
Think a bit like a toolkit.
At the very top, you have the structural level. These are the big picture things, the rules, the regulations, the resources that shape everything else. Down a level, you have the circumstantial level. This is all about a community's specific conditions, like their local environment and their opportunities. And finally, you have the individual level. That's us, our personal awareness, our motivations, and our actions. Seeing all three helps us understand not just where the problems come from, but where the solutions might be too.
Okay, theory is great, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's take a look at a case study that shows how tackling digital and environmental poverty at the same time can create some real positive change.
So in Odisha, India, a region facing both extreme poverty and really severe weather, a social business used a pretty simple tech platform to help smallholder farmers. The platform gave them critical information on weather patterns and market prices, connecting them to resources they never had before. By fixing their lack of digital access, it empowered them to better manage their environmental challenges. It's just a perfect example of an integrated solution.
And that really gets to the heart of it. Awareness is the first step. The source material talks about this idea of people power, the power that comes from the bottom up through activism and advocacy. But here's the thing, you can't build that power without knowledge. If we don't understand the true environmental cost of our digital world, we can't demand real change from the companies and governments that control the system.
Understanding the link between our digital lives and the planet isn't just some academic exercise. It's the foundation for action. Now that we can actually see these hidden connections, the question really shifts from what is the problem to what is my role in the solution?